The first fight of the night, light heavyweight bout, Zach Pauga coming in at plus 180 against Modestas Bukauskas, coming in at minus 180. Over under 2.5 rounds, minus 160 for the over, plus 160 for the under. Zach Pauga, 4-1 in his last 5, and his only loss is to the man, Muhammad Usman, but he's coming down to light heavyweight. His second fight at light heavyweight. Bukauskas, second stint in the UFC, came back on somewhat short notice to Tyson Pedro. Got a big dub as an underdog in that one in Perth, Australia, UFC 284. Now he's coming in here against Zach Pauga, coming to Las Vegas in this one. And he is a favorite. And what are you thinking?
Yeah, man. Bukauskas is hot right now. I mean, he gets kicked from the UFC, gets 2 wins in Cage Warriors, and then comes back and beats Tyson Pedro, parlay buster of the card at Perth. I mean, everybody was on Pedro, hometown guy, from Australia. Everybody wanted him to win. Everybody thought he was going to win, and he was just kind of outclassed. I mean, it looked like he was hurt. He was slow, couldn't land anything, was hesitant to engage, and Bukauskas was just aggressive and did his thing that whole fight. Bukauskas is strong too. You look at him, man. He might be on the juice. I was telling you earlier, I think he's probably juicing. That dude's big. He's strong. But in this fight against, he's shown, I guess before I get into Pauga, Bukauskas has been knocked out, especially in his first UFC stint. So you look at Pauga, who showed some great striking on The Ultimate Fighter, even showed some good slick striking and accuracy against Usman until he got caught with that left and just put out cold. And then in the fight against Jordan Wright, I think everybody in the world had under 1.5, and it was just a boring up against the cage, not much going on at all. Or they had Pauga by knockout because Jordan Wright had been either knocking people out or getting flatlined. So this one, though, it makes me want to take the dog just knowing that Pauga does have good striking and Bukauskas has been knocked out. But I just keep going back to that momentum that Bukauskas has. It's like he's got something to prove now. He was let go from the UFC once. He's back in now. He just made the most of it against Tyson Pedro. And Pauga, man, decent fight against Wright, I guess. But he's going to need a win too. So it's kind of hard to just gauge where this fight's going to go. If it stays on the feet, though, both guys can crack. So it should be really, really interesting. For the pick, give me Bukauskas. I can't bet against the momentum like that and a guy who just desperately needs to keep winning if he wants to keep his job.
Did I just hear you say both guys can crack?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Zach Pauga got 1 KO on his record.
Yeah, maybe not the power, but like we've seen, like the striking's at least slick for a big dude. Like he's fast and he's technical. Like maybe showboats a little bit sometimes with his hands down, which might bite him in the ass, but he's technical. He at least is a good technical striker.
I think the only way Zach Pauga wins this fight is if he does what he did to Jordan Wright.
Makes it look,
just make it boring as hell. Throw him up against the cage. Use your strength and keep him there. Press your head up against his chin. Land some knees, land some elbows. But he can't sit at range with Modestas Bukauskas. He just can't. Bukauskas 6'3", lengthy. Fast too, and he's got good kicks. Pauga, I don't think, has nearly the type of kick game that Bukauskas does, and I don't give him that's the only way I see him winning is throw him against the cage for at least 2 rounds out of 3, or at least take him to the ground and hold him there. But the one thing is the PTSD for Bukauskas. Last time he was in the Apex. The apex was when he got his knee obliterated by Khalil Roundtree. So, maybe you could look at that like it's, PTSD, or you could look at it like he wants to get it back, or he's more motivated to get a win there. And I actually am going to go with him being more motivated to get a win there, because that's probably, something that you're going back to and you're like, all right, I'm not letting this happen again. If he made it back in the UFC, gets a win back in the UFC, and against a pretty solid opponent, even though Tyson Pedro was, somewhat injured or ill or something, that he came out after that and said he wasn't his full self there. But I also look at the competition for Bukauskas. Like when he was in the UFC, lost to Jimmy Crute, who's not terrible. Olashaychuk by split, who's not terrible, and Clay Roundtree, who had like a great resurgence to his career with that performance. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with Bukauskas. I don't love the price because of that factor that Pauga could just make it super boring and get the win that way. But at the same time, I think Bukauskas has more ways to win and is the rightful favorite in my eyes. So I'll take him.